What's a sound that instantly triggers stress? Story 1. For early Sega Sonic games, the warning music that came on when he's about to drown, my blood pressure just spiked, thinking about it. Story 2. My phone ringing. I learned not to use my favorite songs as ringtones as they suddenly become extremely annoying. Story 3. That high-pitched, ear-piercing, screaming wail from a small child due to one of 1,000 reasons they pop off with it. It is like an ice pick right through the ears to the core of the brain. Story 4. I used to be on call 247. For me, it's a ringing phone. I dislike it so much that when I retired in October, my phone went on Do Not Disturb and has been that way since then. Story 5. Dripping. We've had some problems with leaks in my apartment. Also, any growls from the freezer that might mean it's accidentally been left ever so slightly ajar. Story 6. In our neonatal ICU, the incubators have an alarm with a very specific sound when the temp is off. That sound gives me PTSD because I dislike my rotation through neonates when I was an intern. Story 7. Low battery smoke alarm beep at 3 a.m., but it's coming from one of the other apartments, and the people living there can sleep through it. Darn my hypersensitive hearing. Story 8. Someone walking upstairs if I'm not doing anything. Stems from childhood. Immature and always having to be busy. So when I heard my parents coming upstairs, I had to act quick to look productive in some way. Story 9. The wind or rushing water. I've survived an obscene amount of natural disasters, and I can't get over the triggers, lol. Story 10. The bell that a lot of retail places use behind their tills to call for assistance. I spent 20 years in retail, and if that bell goes off when I'm shopping, I immediately think, fudge hell, what now? Story 11. Toddlers crying. They really give it their all. You'd think my nephew was shot whole time. He's just upset that he can't have my food. Story 12. It's coming up on 25 years since I worked in a grocery store. But when I'm grocery shopping and hear that PA system click on, I still freeze and worry that I'm about to be called to the front to deal with some customer's BS. Story 13. There was a specific ringtone on a flip phone that was assigned when there was an incoming hotline emergency call for social services. So glad that flip phones are outdated now. Story 14. Baby crying. But I think pretty much all mammals are hardwired for this as a survival of the species mechanism. Story 15. I have emetophobia, which is the fear of throwing up and others throwing up. If I hear someone gag or burp a little too loud, I'll tense up. Story 16. After hearing the blaring alarm sound effect that would wake me up for school every day for years, I always begin to panic whenever I hear it. Story 17. My next-door neighbor drilling at 7:30 on a Sunday morning. The inconsiderate fudge does it every single bastard Sunday. His living room must be 99 shelving by now. Story 18. Honestly, that loud screech of nails on a chalkboard gets me every time. It instantly makes my shoulders tighten and gives me the worst chills. If that sound doesn't bother someone, I swear they might be a robot. Story 19. I use Slack for work, and one of the notification sounds is a woman's voice saying hummus, something about an inside joke at the company. This has caused quite the Pavlovian response when it comes to any mention of the stuff these days. Story 20. I live a block away from a station that services and provides gas for county vehicles. So, lots of cops and fire trucks up and down all day, and every single one will turn their siren on for a split second in front of my house to say hi to the kids next door. Makes me panic for a second or two every time. Story 21. The classic alarm sound. I've been using it wake up for school for 10 years now. I think I've grown some form of PTSD from the sound, even if I hear it in a TV show or something. Story 22. I'm reading these aloud in the passenger seat of my mom's truck while she drives. I asked her what she would consider a sound that instantly triggers stress, and she thought a second while staring ahead at the busy highway in front of us, and then suddenly white-knuckled the wheel, gasped really loud and cringed like she was bracing for a crash. Obviously, I flipped out and looked at what we were about to hit, and she goes, "So that's one I would consider," and then holds her hand out for a high five. She's not wrong. My heart is blitzing in my chest now. Story 23. I'm on call for my job, and I have a pager app that sounds an alarm if I get paged. That sound can herald in extremely stressful situations. It haunts my dreams. Story 24. My morning alarm, the squeak of shoes on floor popping balloons. Most noises, really. Noises stress me out. Story 25. My whole childhood, it was my fire chief grandpa's dispatch alarm on his radio at odd hours of the night. Not being able to sleep as a kid from the worry of losing him. Grew up and moved out. Didn't hear dispatch call for years. He had a stroke when I was a teen. Hearing his last call turned my stomach and heart into absolute knots. 531, 531. To pour salt into the wound, after I moved back into my grandma's, 3 years later, I was working as a 19YO pregnant, hormonal, emotionally moved easily, sandwich artist when a group of young local firemen came in. Midway through one of their subs, the building is filled with the alarms of multiple radios dispatching. Had to ugly cry in the walk-in. Story 26. Glass breaking is almost never a good sound. It doesn't matter where I am. The sound of something made of glass shattering immediately raises my stress levels. Story 27. The DoorDash thing at restaurants when they receive an order always makes me panic. I don't even work in food service anymore, but it haunts me still. Story 28. It's been years since I worked fast food, but my wife was watching something Thag featured the ding the headset makes at Taco Bell, and I immediately got warm all over and needed to get up and move around. Story 29. Anything phone-related. I usually leave it on vibration, but then I'd often confuse whatever with my phone vibrating. Years ago, I used to live near a big junction where some buses would slow down before the traffic lights. Their brakes releasing pressure downstairs really sounded like my phone. Story 30. My now ex-wife and my daughter getting into arguments and fighting all the time, especially as soon as I walk in the door from work. Story 31. I dislike the Skype call noise. There's something about the key that it was in that instantly triggered my fight or flight response. Story 32. Phone vibrating, specifically against my bed. It constantly sends shivers down my spine, and I can't get used to it no matter what. Story 33. Children and babies screaming and crying, loud stomping from upstairs neighbors. It feels like the ceiling is going to cave. Then they slam doors. All of this goes on the whole darn day every day. Story 34. Trump's voice. It's a relief when he's just crowing about some nonsense rather than announcing some new awful policy. Story 35. The maid knock, which is basically bang 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 bee. Ang bang 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 bang. Ang bang 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 bang. Gi bang 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 bang. Bang 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 bang. Until you answer. Story 36. Pagers. I am a doctor, Luckily, I haven't had one since residency, which ended 10 years ago. But the horror... Story 37. My mother in the next room. She suffers from Parkinson's, and all night she is either writhing in pain or screaming out with nightmares. I never know if I need to run in there to assist her, or if she's just having a dream that she won't remember. Story 38. One of my cats meows like every 5 seconds when he wants to go outside. Cats are professional assholes. Story 39. Classic alarm sound, or the EAS siren. I had an obsession with those ES scenario YouTube vids for a short bit, so that probably didn't help LOL. Story 40. When you are in the middle of a heated multiplayer match that you are trying to clutch a win out of, and you suddenly hear the USB disconnect sound. Story 41. I tried to find it before I commented, but you ever work in a restaurant kitchen? The distinct sound of a ticket machine printing a new ticket at your station. I have nightmares with that noise punctuating them. Story 42. Slamming doors and loud footsteps. I'm a grown jerk adult and immediately regress into a child that feels like they're about to, he yelled at. Story 43. That one ringtone for Samsung phones that was playing right when Ronnie McNutt blew his head off live on camera. Story 44. Anything loud, really. It's not when it's expected, like a concert or something. But if I'm sitting there and something randomly falls in the kitchen, it instantly floods me with stress. It's been doing that a lot when nobody is home, which is even worse. Story 45. The sound they play in the movies when a bomb explodes. I know that's what happens, but it still bothers me. Story 46. People doing funk clapping. I'm not talking about professionals. I'm talking about those boys. It's enough to get nervous. Story 47. My wife saying my name because I know it's gonna be stupid, because she only calls my name when she thinks she knows something that she's horribly wrong about. Story 48. Anyone else had such a bad upbringing that the sound of someone knocking on the door makes you jump? Story 49. Wild animals screaming at night. Cats, dogs, foxes, martins, or whatever other local animals scream their lungs out because they have beef at 3 a.m. Story 50. I get really stressed by chewing sounds, the scraping sound of cutlery on plates, and oddly enough, when dogs lick themselves excessively. Story 51. My son has diagnosed anxiety disorders. When he is having trouble coping, he starts with this cough. He cannot control it, and this cough has the same timing, I guess, as hiccups, so he can't really talk or eat, and it means he is super stressed about something and or not coping well. This sound puts me on immediate alert and causes my anxiety to go into overdrive to get to the root of the issue and help resolve. Story 52. Crying. My roommate is a crier, lets out sobs immediately once she's upset. I immediately start singing in my head. All the babies on the bus go wah, wah, wah-ha, wah, wah, wah-ha, all through the town. I'm probably a terrible person for it, but I used to sing it to the babies and toddlers I babysat when they whined and cried. Sometimes I could get a smile or laugh out of them when I sang it to them. I doubt it would make my roommate smile or laugh if I sang it to her, though. Story 53. Forgot what ringtone it is on iPhone, but when I used to be on call for animal control and hearing it go off at ungodly hours, then hearing it for other people's ringtones, panic would follow. Story 54. For me, it's a child crying. I have always felt children are often too young to understand the why behind what's going on around them. Maybe it's a parenting thing I see, but it stresses me the F out when I see children crying and no one consoling them with understanding. Maybe it's just me. Story 55. The moment Mom yells my full no, I just know either I'm done for or am about to get really busy in the kitchen. Story 56. This is incredibly specific and niche, but the beam abort sound for the Tevatron particle accelerator at Fermilab always made me clench a bit. Story 57. The pounding bass from terrible dance music that is played at all hours by a neighbor as you are trying to sleep. Story 58. The high-pitched beep of an alarm clock just makes me think of waking up for high school or work having not slept enough. Story 59. People dragging their hands across furniture wrapped up in plastic. People dragging their nails across blackboards. Story 60. It's the basic Samsung ringtone. My dad had that ringtone while my mom was in the hospital. The only time his phone rang was when the hospital would call with updates. By and large, the news was usually bad. Last week I was in an Aldi and that ringtone kept going off, but the person wouldn't answer. I ended up having to plug my ears because my heart just started pounding from that sound. Story 61. The sound of a plane overhead and the sound of a passing train. Sucks because I live directly next to commuter train tracks and under the flight path of departing airplanes. Good thing I have good enough sound blocking. Story 62. The mail truck because my dogs freak when they hear it and go insane when the mailman walks to the front door. Story 63. The sound of a phone vibrating on TV or in a video of some sort instantly sends chills down my spine. Story 64. I used to hear the printer from my last job in my sleep. Even now, if I hear a sound even close to it, gives me chills. Story 65. Coyotes yipping and howling in my yard while take down some wildlife. I have a blind dog and need to be aware of our surroundings at all times. 3:55 p.m. today, a coyote was in my yard stalking squirrels 15 ft from my desk, where I just brought my dog out to lay in the shade. Story 66. The default ringtone on my iPhone. I don't have to talk on the phone often at all. So if my phone rings and it's not my telehealth appointment, I knew it was most likely my boss. And he only called if there were some kind of issue or complaint. Story 67. You ever have to answer a designated phone for work and couldn't access settings to change the ringtone? Yeah, all those. Story 68. Growing up on a computer, any alarm that sounds like Avast antivirus finding a sneaky file makes my heart drop every time. Story 69. That weird sound a cat makes, glurt, 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 while convulsing up a hairball. You have 5 seconds when they first start that weird merrow to find some newspaper and put it front of the cat, or move the cat off the carpet to the tile floor. Act quickly or break out the carpet cleaner. Story 70. Oh, and taking anything out of the freezer, especially having to pull it out of a packed freezer. I keep getting stress chills. Story 71. Alarm on the tube feeding pump. Absolute trigger to when my son was tube-fed and out of hospital all the time in the first 2 years of life. The kicker, I'm a nurse, so still have to deal with the pumps. Story 72. Most obvious answer, Guardian music from BOTW. My friends woke me up on a school trip with that in late 2017, and I haven't been the same since. Story 73. Ice cream truck driving by our neighborhood. One time I left the garage open and my aunt got upset about it. And when it happened, the garage door was open. Now, every time I hear it, I gotta check I didn't leave it open. Story 74. A call from my son. He only texts me. If he wants to talk, it's something important. Ran out of gas 50 miles away, or a bill is past due. Story 75. Car horns makes me want to explode. Fireworks popping, morning alarms, phones ringing, babies crying, two different kinds of music playing at once in a discernible vicinity. Two people talking to me at the same time, repeated beeping of any kind. I could go on. Story 76. Helicopters. After earthquakes, they fly around to access destruction. The sound makes me cringe. Story 77. It's probably not very common, but the sound of oxygen bubbling in hospital rooms and all the machines beeping and tiny gears grinding makes me remember the months my father was in the hospital. Story 78. The sound of babies crying. I spent 3 weeks getting chemo at a children's hospital when I was 17. Every time I went to sleep, you could hear a 6-month-old baby crying in pain. The worst nights are when you hear nothing at all. Story 79. The tummy wombles. That office water cooler blub blub sound, but from within. Unless you're conveniently at home in an appropriate space, that would be my answer. Story 80. When I can hear frustration building is someone's voice. My father had a horrible temper growing up and would take it out on us even if we weren't the cause. So I immediately get the instinct to hide when I hear anger in someone's voice. If I have nowhere to hide, I disassociate and prepare to get screamed at and/or hit. You have to turn your brain off and just wait for it to be over, because if you cry, you just get hit more. It's been well over a decade, but that defense mechanism has stuck with me. Story 81. Canvas notification sound, SolidWorks error sound, any noise coming from a car that is not normally there. Gears stripping. Can I see you in my office, please? Story 82. Sound of plates knocking or hitting each other. Whenever my partner does the dishes and I hear them, it makes me jump. When I was younger, if I heard a loud sound of plates or kitchen items moving or being thrown around, it didn't mean someone dropped their food. It meant my parents were fighting and I had to intervene. This is what a childhood with unstable parents does to someone. Story 83. People loudly carrying on a conversation on speakerphone in a store parking lot. They're in their cars with Bluetooth set so loud I can hear the entire conversation even though their windows are up. Like, don't they know everyone can hear it? It's like the music on a darn ice cream truck, except it's a screaming convo. Story 84. My sister's voice. I know I'm in for an ear beating about anything and everything in her life. Girl exists to gossip, like a never-ending fountain of words that say everything and amounts to nothing. I'll still listen. She's my sister and I love her. But my facial expressions give away my inner monologue, and she gives me shoot as much as I give her. Story 85. Someone's screaming at the top of the lungs. My brain can't handle the sound. It short circuits. I get overwhelmed. I was recently in a small glass elevator with 3 preteen girls who got excited to see a friend and started screaming at the top of their lungs to get their attention. I couldn't even. I immediately yelled, "Don't fudge do that." I didn't mean to cuss, but it flew out of my mouth. I told them it was incredibly rude and to please not do that again. Story 86. The sound of my classroom door unlocking. Only a handful of people have a key to my classroom, and only administrators pop in while I'm teaching. Story 87. My phone ringtone. I don't often get calls on my personal phone, but when I do, something is happening with family, and it's usually bad. I have a close family member who has a severe mental illness, so it's pretty common when things are unstable. I'll change my ringtone every now and then, but eventually will develop the anxiety every time I hear it. I can go full silent, but I'm always afraid I'll miss an important call, so I'm stuck. Story 88. Hearing the door slam, car door, bedroom door, cabinet door, makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Story 89. Anything about to puke. If people make the noise, it triggers me. My dog puked up bile once, and while cleaning it up, I vomited into the sink. Story 90. Babies crying. I feel an instant, visceral reaction that sometimes makes me feel like hyperventilating. No, I don't have children of my own. Story 91. Cars playing music with a lot of bass. Some random dude followed my husband home from work one night and attacked him in our driveway. My husband was screaming for help. The attacker had loud rap with heavy bass playing in his car. If I hear that sound while at home, I make sure my doors are locked. Story 92. A baby crying. Any adult male yelling. Trauma. Children whining. Super bass in cars, the kind where it's no longer a sound but a feeling. Diesel trucks idling non-stop. Backup alarms, air brakes, Mission Impossible theme was my on-call ringtone. Story 93. The agonized grunting of the garbage truck as it makes its way toward our house every Tuesday morning at about 7:45. Story 94. I hear alarm clock sounds in movies. They always use the same generic sound, and it reminds me of my alarm clock from the army. It temporarily brings me back to the dreadful mornings getting ready for PT. Story 95. I don't think many people would recognize this sound, and listening to clips of it on YouTube does not do the shrill, grating loudness of it justice. Male coturnix, quail calls. I am counting down the days till I can cull my males, because their call drives me insane in a way I cannot even explain. I am a generally calm and even-tempered person, but hearing that sound on repeat makes me irrationally angry to the point of tears and wanting to break things. I absolutely love my birds, and the boys are still so sweet and beautiful. But fudge that sound. I can currently hear it through the entire house, and I want to strangle them. Story 96. The beep of the countdown timer in the Swan Station on LOST. The piano riff when a guardian sees you in Breath of the Wild. Story 97. Sound loud enough to cause vibrations. I went to a club in Philly once because X really wanted to go see her favorite's DJ's new song, debuted 0200. Got there at 20:30, 2100. I was fine the first hour and a half, but the vibrations and all the stimuli screwed me up. She was real horny and touchy. She took something I found out later, and I had to push her away physically. Too much stimuli, recently decided to randomly go to a church. Walked in, heard the music, upbeat and roaring, found a place and stood with everyone, left after 30 to 45 seconds. The sound vibrated through me, and I knew in like 5 minutes I probably would have freaked out on somebody. Story 98. How I Met Your Mother theme song, or any scene, 'cause I was struggling with depression and how sickness when I watched that show, and now whenever I hear or see anything related to it, I feel unpleasant and uncomfortable. Story 99. The pause and silence when I press start on my dishwasher, and it waits a few seconds to start and likes to toy with me.